We are live and it is 4:30.
Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's Board of Education meeting. It is June 23rd, 2021, and I'd like to call this meeting to order and establish a quorum.
Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Great, thanks everyone. May I please get a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Great. Seabury, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Sure thing. Hand on your heart. I'll actually take my hat off too. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you so much. Before adjourning to closed session, I will go ahead and identify the closed session items and accept public comment on these items alone. Closed session agenda item A is student discipline or other confidential student matters pursuant to Ed Code sections 35146, 48900, 48912B, and 49060, and 20 USC section 1232G. Closed session agenda item B is, for closed session agenda item A, it's case number 20.21.02. For closed session agenda item B, it's conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, subdivision A. Agency designated representative Craig Chavez, Trisha Dellis, and Yvonne Perez regarding represented and unrepresented employees, non-represented groups except the superintendent. Closed session agenda item C is public employee discipline dismissal release complaints pursuant to Government Code 54957. And with that, I will go ahead and open it up for public comment on closed session agenda items only.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 2, closed session, please raise your hand. We will not be revisiting public comments on this agenda item. I will take pause. Last call. I am seeing no hands raised.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will adjourn to closed session. I'll see everybody there. Thanks.
It is 5:30.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to welcome everybody back to the Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021 Board of Education meeting. The board has just emerged from closed session and I have a few report outs. For closed session agenda item 2A, we must vote and approve this in open session, which what we'll do now. Regarding the expulsion case number 20.21.02, do we have a motion to approve the stipulated expulsion agreement?
Motion to approve the stipulated expulsion agreement.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar,
Yes.
and I don't see Board Member Carl Palestrini. He should be joining us shortly, I'm sure.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to closed session agenda item 2B. For agenda item 2B, the board provided direction and parameters. For agenda item for closed session 2C, in closed, the board took action to approve resolution 21-20, non-reemployment of temporary certificated employees, releasing 2 temporary certificated employees at the end of the 2020-2021 school year by a unanimous 5-0 vote. We also directed staff to provide the required legal notices to the temporary certificated employees. Also, for closed session agenda item 2C, the board took action to unanimously approve a settlement agreement regarding the resignation of 1 certificated teacher. The resignation and agreement are not final until a waiting period on revocation has passed. So that puts an end to our closed session agenda items. And now we will move on to our open session agenda items this evening. I'd like to notify the audience that this meeting is being recorded and audio taped. And we will move along into open session agenda item 3C. This is public comment on non-agenda items and reports. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education on items within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda this evening or regarding reports under item 3D may do so at this time. Community members wishing to address the board are allotted 3 minutes per speaker. Please note that speaking time cannot be delegated to another person. Should more than 20 people wish to address any one topic, the board may elect to allocate 2 minutes per speaker. I would also just like to respectfully acknowledge that the Board of Education during these meetings is committed to maintaining a respectful and productive environment that fosters a culture of civility where staff, our community, and the board feel safe to express themselves. So the board welcomes your comments and requests respectfully that you express yourself accordingly. We thank you so much for attending this evening's meeting and having the interest in our schools. And so with that said, we will move on to public comment for non-agendized items.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 3C, public comment on non-agendized items and reports. We will not be revisiting public comments on non-agendized items later in the meeting. I will take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 3C. I am showing 1 hand raised. Tracy Henderson.
Can you folks hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tracy Henderson. I'm a parent of a sophomore at Carmel High School. I am also the legal director for Utah Parents United, and I founded California Parents United. We just formed a coalition of groups, parents' rights advocates groups across the state that have tribes of 1.2 million total, and that's just the beginning. I'm addressing you today. Thank you for the opportunity to ask yourselves, why are you listening to the state of California Department of Health on the mask issue? Why are we even considering continuing to mask our children? It's been proven that masks do not work. I have sent you articles that show 23 studies that they do nothing. And in fact, they damage developing brains. Within 3 minutes of wearing a mask, they damage the hippocampus. That causes the basis for degenerative disease. And we're going to create a bunch of Alzheimer's patients in the future. I don't understand why we're not pushing back. And I have talked to every single one of you board members about these issues. And the response I get is, well, it's up to the state. Well, the state is not acting in our children's best interest. It's time to end this. It's time to do something here locally to end this. So personally, I can tell you we're involved with a group that is suing the California Department of Health. So hopefully that will help. But I'm wondering why we even have to go there. My second comment, and I'm not sure if I should make it now, is I noticed that you folks are hiring a communications director, and you're looking for somebody with the skill set of social justice, inclusion, diversity, and equity training. That is code for critical race theory. And I'm going to take the time to send you a documentary video that's, I think, about 10 minutes that I would strongly encourage you to watch if you have not, about the damage that critical race theory is doing to our culture. I'm sure you saw the news that Salinas High Unified School District parents spoke out on the issue, and they don't want it. So I talked to many of you board members, and you think it's not in Carmel Unified and you're not teaching critical race theory, but you're hiring a communications director that has that skill set. That's a red flag. So I appreciate the time. I will be speaking with you folks and emailing you folks and providing you many, many resources.
Seafood best. So, who's hungry?
Tracy, are you still there? Did she drop off?
Dropped off.
Okay.
Sarah, there was a second hand raised too. I don't know. We didn't say it's Steve S. Are we allowing?
I apologize, Tess. It was past the time that Michelle took to take hands. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to agenda item 3D. This is board, superintendent, ACT, CSCA comments. These are just routine status regarding campus activities, meeting schedules, conferences, and meetings attended, and any recent developments. And we will start with updates from our board members. And we'll go ahead and start this evening with Anne Marie.
Hello. I don't want to take over what is going to be coming up later, but I wanted to say thank you for summer school, all of my fellow board members, and Tricia Dellis for getting it together. And I would like to really thank Lee Canberra for stepping up to the plate to take on the yeoman's job of taking over as principal for summer school. And I would definitely like to thank all of the teachers. I know they're getting paid, but man, to take 3 weeks out of your summer to teach summer school, hats off to you. The kids have come back, and some of them, who were very, surly, heads down at the first day of summer school, were like, wow, I'm actually learning something and I'm feeling good about where I am. Some of them who are 5th graders who are now 6th graders are so thankful to be able to get to see the campus. So thank you for all of your hard work. It's great. And I'm going to be short, sweet, and to the point and say, happy summer, yay!
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and go with Seabury.
Yeah, I don't have much to report out on. I'm looking forward to some meetings coming up, including I got invited by Ben at the Habitat to walk around the Habitat New Earth, one of my favorite places. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's been pretty quiet, which is good. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Seabury. Tess.
Hi, yes, I attended the Monterey County School Boards Association meeting on Monday night, and we awarded the Excellence in Education Award to Sunset Street Center, which is a drug and alcohol prevention and recovery program. So they were well deserved. They've managed to continue their services throughout this past year, which have been greatly needed. And then also the Monterey County School Boards Association is coming out with their list of upcoming conferences and leadership series. And one that's coming up that I thought some of my fellow board members might be interested in is on July 26th. And the topic for that one is roles and responsibilities of school boards and best practices for board and superintendent relations. So I know I'm going to be attending that one and just thought you guys might want to know about that. And the rest of the seminars will be coming out in the next few weeks. And then also quickly, I just want to, I'm really bummed that Tricia Dellis is not with us this evening. And I know Sarah was going to share out later why, but I just wanted to give a heartfelt thanks to her. I'll personally and professionally miss her. And she's just really been a class act and has been a pillar of grace, resolve, and perseverance during an extremely challenging year. So thank you, Tricia Dellis. You will be missed. And I'm sorry you're not here to hear that this evening. So that's it for me, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Carl?
Okay, not a lot, but of course I too will miss Tricia. You know, the California School Boards Association, CSBA, has I almost a daily communication now with board members, and some of the articles in there are really outstanding, and they have a very objective approach to what they see happening in the state of California, and for me that's pretty refreshing. And one of those that came out, I think yesterday, was the impact of COVID on school superintendents across the country, and how many of them have chosen to leave because they got caught in the crunch of having to try to please the parents, try to please the teachers, people in the community in general. And Tricia wasn't the only one that got caught in that crunch. Let me tell you, I mean, I think the percentage of people leaving the superintendency is it's pretty significant. So I think that was an interesting article. I also want to say I've talked to Tracy Henderson, and I do understand her points. One of the things that I think is important, and I recommended this to her, is to talk to the people at the central office. If you're talking about critical race theory, talk to Blaise DiGirolamo, and I'll tell you why. Because I did. That's not a good enough reason, but it's a starting point because he has a real good handle on what we are teaching at all of the grade levels in terms of those, shall we call them non-academic, reading, writing, and arithmetic parts of our curriculum. So I think it's a wise idea to get a base of knowledge in terms of what Carmel Unified is doing with that, and the number of opportunities for opt-outs for parents in certain curriculums, which are certainly there. So to move from point A to point Z, my advice would be to get a pretty thorough understanding of what we are doing and why we're doing it. Of course, we do follow the State Department of Education's adopted curriculum. So the same would be true with masks and students. You might want to talk to Paul Bean in that end of student services in terms of our commitment to other state agencies and why we do what we do. So it's just information that'll help, I think, shape thinking. And those two certainly have more information than any one of us does individually. Having said that, nice article about Bill Schreier in the Pinecone, if you didn't get a chance to read it. He has had a circuitous career, to say the least. And I just thought it was kind of a nice thing to expose his travels in life and how he has landed after so many different jobs and opportunities as finding his place in the world, which is with kids. That's it for me.
Thanks so much, Carl. I would also like to echo Anne Marie's thanks for everybody involved in summer school right now. I know it was an effort to get it off the ground, so thank you for everyone who is participating and keeping that moving forward. Thank you to Lee Canberra, as Anne Marie mentioned, for running the K through 8 summer school program. And I'd also like to acknowledge Debbie Puente and Craig Tuana for running the high school summer school program. I just want to make sure that Debbie and Craig get a shout out as well, because I know they're doing a great job up there. I don't have many updates this evening. I want to keep it short and sweet. I would like to mention that unfortunately our next agenda item is the superintendent update. And as Tess mentioned, Tricia is not with us this evening. She had a death in the family, so she was unable to join us, but we will all miss her. And I would like to say thank you to her for everything that she's done for us up until this point. And you will be very missed, Tricia Dellis, and thank you for your service to our district. And with that, I will go ahead and move it along to an update from our ACT, Association of Carmel Teachers, and California School Employees Association, CSEA. I think we have Lee for ACT this evening and or Bill, or both. And I'm not sure who we have from CSCA, Michelle, if anybody.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Hi. So, all right, so you get to just hear me. So I haven't been on Zoom for a while. This is actually kind of cool. My name's Lee Cambra. My normal role is during the school year is as a teacher at Carmel High School. I'm also the advisor for This Club Saves Lives. And I'm also the ACT secretary. But I also have an administrative credential, as do actually a lot of teachers in COSD. So it's really been my honor to run the new K-8 summer program. I first want to mention, as Sarah just said, there are various summer programs that have always happened in COSD that are going strong and that are continuing to go strong this summer. And that includes, there's a great program at Captain Cooper. And then, as Sarah mentioned, we do have the high school program that's for credit recovery. They've just had to basically expand that more this year, but that's going really strong. And so that's been happening really recently. So the program that I've been overseeing is for K-8 students from Tulare, River, and CMS. So for those of you who don't really know me, I'm from Palo Alto. I know everybody loves Palo Alto. I grew up in Palo Alto. I attended Palo Alto schools. I taught in Palo Alto. I'm a Palo Alto taxpayer. I have family there. My friends still teach there. So when we first started talking about the K-8 summer school, the first thing I did was reach out to Palo Alto schools, to the summer school principals there, see what they were doing. I also have a lot of family and friends in MPOSD who are teaching there this summer as well. I wanted to see what they were doing and just, get the download on how they planned everything. I also reached out to various districts in both Northern and Southern California. And we took all those ideas into consideration to make a program that we thought really was best for the community that we're. So I did want to give a little bit of an update. It's going really well. We have 75 students that are going into grades 1st through 9th that are attending the summer school. It's at the middle school. So we have some amazing teachers, definitely the dream team of teachers that are helping with writing and math and reading and STEM and PE. So a big thank you to them, to the teachers and the instructional aides. We also have volunteers. Anne Marie has been out there. We also have a couple of students who've been helping. The food service workers have been getting snacks and lunches to all of the students at all of the sites. Bus drivers have been bringing in students from Kashawa to make sure they can go to school at both Carmel Middle and Carmel High School. The custodians, we've had to invade their spaces when normally this is their time to get things ready for the school year. We've invaded their space and they've been wonderful, giving us a little bit of space while they're still doing what they need to do this summer. And a big thank you to everybody at the district office who helped make the first half of the summer school go just really well. Everyone involved in the daily program are either current or retired employees of the Carmel Unified School District. I think we're really lucky to have so many people that want to come out and support the program. I just can't stress enough how amazing it is to have people who already know our community to be there every day, and that we did not have to look outside of Carmel Unified to bring in qualified teachers, because we already had the dream team right here. The goal of the program is to help the students who are identified by teachers and administration needing a little bit more support to get them ready to go back in the fall. Everyone brings so much knowledge of our community, as well as just so much empathy every day working with our kids. The students have been attending and just really enjoying their time at summer school. I think it's helping lower their anxiety so that when they come back in August, they've already experienced this. So I hope that they can just like kind of get to work faster in August and just get back into the flow. And then also, as you know, been mentioned too, we're working with the Carmel Youth Center, and they've been able to provide afternoon program for the families that needed that. They also employ Carmel high school students. And so we have high school students that are being supervised by the CYC out there every day, providing crafts and games. So again, thank you to everybody who helped get this off the ground so quickly. I'm personally looking forward to evaluating this program this fall so that we can make plans to make improvements for next year. We're already at the midway point. I'm already thinking about like what we can do better for next year. So I just, again, thank you for the opportunity. Everyone, the staff, the students are awesome. Everyone's been great to work with. And then just on a different note, I am sad that Trisha isn't here tonight, but I just basically want to say how much I personally will miss her. And I just want to wish her a relaxing retirement and thank her for everything that she has done for Carmel Unified. So thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Lee, for that update. Well said. We appreciate the detail and all the information you provided with us. So thank you very much for that. So since we don't have anybody from CSCA, we will move along to the consent calendar portion of the agenda for this evening. Pursuant to Board Bylaw 9322, and in order to promote more efficient meetings, the board may bundle a number of items and act upon them together through the use of the consent calendar agenda. Consent agenda items are reserved for routine items that are deemed to be non-controversial and allow a governing board to save the bulk of its meeting time for subjects about which there is a need for discussion and/or debate. Consent items shall be items of a routine nature and items for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. All matters this evening listed under the consent calendar will be considered by the board in one motion by roll call vote. Pursuant to Board Bylaw 9322, the board will accept public comment on these items, but there will be no discussion of these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless any member of the board requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion. So with that, I will go ahead and accept public comment on consent agenda items only.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 4 consent calendar, please raise your hand. We'll pause. Last call on public comments for agenda item 4. I am showing no hands raised.
Great, thank you. May I please get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve this consent calendar.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nakbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Great, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to action, discussion, and information items. So this evening, we'll kick off with agenda item 5A. This is the California Dashboard Local Indicators Self-Evaluation Report Approval. And Paul Bean will lead us in this discussion.
Hey, board. It's good to be here tonight. Pancho, if you could pull up that presentation. Carl, I know how you love long presentations. I'm filling in for Blaze here, and he told me to make sure it was at least 45 minutes long. So I'll do my best to do that. Actually, we've condensed an 11-page report, which you have the detail down into 4 or 5 pages. So if Pancho, if you would click to the next slide. So this is an annual requirement. It is part of the dashboard, and a new piece of it this year is that we have to report, how we're doing on our local measures in conjunction with our LCAP approval process, which is also something we're working on later tonight in the agenda. And then we upload and report those results so that they are publicly available on the California dashboard. We'll do that in the fall after the board's approved them. All right, Pancho, next slide. So just a quick overview of the dashboard. There are 8 state priority areas. There are 5 indicators that the state requires districts to use, and then the district has 5 other local indicators that we've chosen to use from the options available to us. So you'll see that we use, for basic services, we're using the School Accountability Report Card, which is where we report what's called the Williams Act, which has to do with things like availability of qualified teachers and the state of our facilities and that sort of thing. The state standards, it's pretty simple, is based on our implementation of the state standards. Parent engagement, we have a self-reflection tool that we'll be reporting about tonight. And then in student achievement, we have the academic indicators and in English learner indicator. We've got student engagement, which includes things like the absences, chronic absences in particular, and our grad rate. For school climate, we report the suspension rate. And we also do a school climate survey. This year it was the California Healthy Kids Survey, and on alternate years, it's the Stanford assessment of students. We also need to offer a broad course of study. So we have a college career indicator for that. And of course, we do offer a broad course of study. And then there's the kind of a general category of other outcomes, which we use this college and career indicator as required by the state. Next slide. So this is priority 1, 2, and 7. This is about our basic conditions. And these are also reported in the School Accountability Report Card. So 1 is the teacher misassignments and vacancies. There are 0. We are compliant. You actually, as a board, certify our statement that we have sufficient instructional materials, and our schools are in good repair. There's nothing on our facilities reports other than minor repairs. Priority 2 is the implementation of the state academic standards. You know that we've been working on this for a long time, so we're fully aligned with instructional materials, implementing the state standards, the professional learning that's required for that, and supporting the teachers and ultimately the students for success in that. Priority 7 is just access to a broad course of study. So we have everything that's required by Ed Code, and as you know, well more. We have a very, very rich program. Next slide. Priority 3 is probably the one area that you'd see that we actually have recommendations to make some improvements and some strategies for those improvements. So in terms of parent engagement, we feel, and based on our reflective questions and the survey we've done, we've got full implementation in terms of the building relationships section. Where we're needing to work more is the building of the partnerships, the idea of teaching our teachers and our administrators how to more and more engage the parents. Actually, the parents rate us quite highly in their level of engagement. But when we rate ourselves in terms of how much have we actually trained our staff, we see that there's work we could do there. And so there's also an opportunity for some, regarding decision-making, some development for more collaboration with parents and staff about, decision-making and outreach. So you'll see at the bottom there, one of the strategies is to hire a director of communications and community engagement. I believe that's on tonight's board agenda. And you probably, you board members who are parents have probably already started using Parent Square. We made a push to implement that, which is more of a two-way communication tool. When we fully implement it, it will allow for some more back and forth communication between parents and teachers and administrators. And at the high school level, the students have a sister program called Student Square, where they can also interact with their teachers. So those are our two key strategies for this area that relative to the others in the local indicators, this one was relatively low. And then Pancho, if you could go to the next slide. The last priority to report on is about school climate. We've got really strong results. You'll see California Healthy Kids Survey, which we give in grades 5, 7, 9, and 11. One of the things that happened this year, because we weren't in school for the majority of the year, and especially at the time that we administered the Healthy Kids Survey, all the questions that they normally ask about school safety, there's questions about use of drugs or alcohol on school grounds. None of those questions were asked for schools that were in a distance mode. So we don't have current data this year for those types of safety questions. At the same time, it's been always a strong category for us. School safety for students is as a positive in Carmel Unified. And then there's the Stanford Survey of Adolescent School Experiences. We're looking at the category of teacher caring and support. And there's a brand new set of questions about belongingness. And we're rated strongly by students in those areas too. So I believe that's the end of the presentation. Are there questions or comments?
Before we get to board questions and comments, I'll turn it over for any public comments on agenda item 5A. This is the California Dashboard Local Indicators Self-Evaluation Report.
Okay, we'll give folks a few minute or so here to raise their hand if they have a question.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment, please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call on public comments for agenda item 5A. I am showing no hands raised.
Great, thank you. So I'll turn it over to the board for discussion, questions, comments with Paul. Seabury?
Yeah, hi, Paul. Thank you for that presentation. I'm curious, has the state provided any guidance for potential indicators of the impact of COVID last year? I mean, is that something that can be added in terms
Yeah,
of?
well, so this part is about the local indicators, but we have an entire plan related to those types of things. So helping students make up any areas that they may have missed because of COVID this year and because of the sort of some of the limitations of distance learning. Those are available in another area of the plan.
Right, and I know we've been through that already. I was just curious if the state is trying to integrate and acknowledge the huge impact that this last year has made, and if they're providing indicators along those lines.
Oh, nothing that I'm aware of specific from the state, but we'll have our own indicators with that. As you know, we've got a huge focus on wellness, for example, and academic supports. So we'll be looking at data to see how those programs are working.
Thanks.
If there aren't any more questions or comments for Paul, we do need a motion to approve the report.
Well, I can make a motion, but I would like to thank Paul and Blaze, of course, for keeping this very nice and tidy in terms of time. Thank you both. So I'll make a motion to approve the California Healthy Kids Survey results as presented.
Sorry, this isn't the California Healthy Kids.
Oh,
Sorry, Carl.
Indicators. So sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I can piggyback. I'll make the motion to approve the California Dashboard Local Indicators Self-Evaluation Report.
That's the one.
Second.
President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Great. Moving on to agenda item 5B, I'd like to make note, as Paul mentioned, Blaze is not with us this evening. So Paul will present the 2021 through 2024 Local Control Accountability Plan. This is the LCAP plan that we reviewed and discussed in our meeting 2 weeks ago. So that was our opportunity to have a healthy discussion with Blaze and community members and amongst ourselves at that time. So this evening, Paul will be looking for the LCAP approval request from us. So with that, I will, I don't know, Paul, do you have a presentation?
There is no presentation because,
Okay.
as you mentioned, you had a pretty thorough discussion about it last time. So right now, it's basically, are there any questions before you vote on its approval?
So before we turn it over to the board, one last time, I will turn it over for any public comment on agenda item 5A, which is the LCAP.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5B, 2021-24 Local Control Accountability Plan approval request. Please raise your hand. We'll take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 5B. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, and thank you for correcting me, Michelle. All right, so we had a healthy discussion, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago. If there's any questions for Paul, now is our time. If not, if we could get a motion to approve the LCAP, that would be great.
I move to approve the 2021 to 2024 Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP.
I will second that.
Board President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So same goes for 5C. This is the fiscal year 2021 through 2022 budget adoption and excess reserves. And this was presented by Yvonne 2 weeks ago, where we also had the opportunity to discuss. So this evening, we'll be looking for approval on the fiscal budget for 2021 and 2022. And I will turn it over to public comment before I turn it over to the board and Paul.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5C, please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call on public comments for agenda item 5C. I'm showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. So if there are not any questions or comments on agenda item 5C, I'd like to request a motion to approve.
I'll do that, and hopefully correctly. Let me make a motion to approve fiscal year 2021-2022 budget adoption and excess reserves.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
All right, agenda item 5D. Thanks for hanging in there with us, Paul. This is the 2021-2022 school plan for student achievement for Captain Cooper Elementary School.
And I do not have a long presentation on this. The couple things that I would point out to the board. You might be asking, why is Captain Cooper the only one presenting a plan right now? And that is because the other schools will present a plan to you at, near the start of the school year. But Captain Cooper, because they received federal Title I funds, had a quicker timeline this year. They're going to receive nearly $330,000 of federal funds. So they, their timeline required this to be on tonight's agenda. and I'm open to questions.
Yeah. Is that, is it?
Sorry, I'll open it up to the public really quickly. Sorry.
Yep.
Now's the time. If you'd like to state a public comment on agenda item 5D, Captain Cooper, School Plan for Student Achievement 21-22, please raise your hand. I will take a pause. Last call on public comments for agenda item 5D. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Yeah, quick question for Paul. $330,000, is that largely for staffing?
Yes, yeah, lots of interventions. Part of it is actually the 0.1 of the FTE for the teaching principals in there for program administration. But then there's a little bit for materials and professional development, but the rest of it is pretty much intervention.
Is that a typical amount that we receive annually, or is it changed?
You know, Blaze would know and Elisa would know better. My belief is this is higher. This is a pretty high year. And,
Yeah.
and they've also beefed it up. If you look at the last page of their plan, part of their funding will also include the expanded learning opportunity grant and the in-person instruction grant. So I think this is a fairly healthy budget compared to their typical plan.
Yes, it is. That's why I was asking.
Actually, Elisa is here. Elisa, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I might. Can you give us a sense based on Carl's question, if this is a typical amount for Cooper? And I don't know if she stepped away from her.
I'm here.
There you are. Okay.
I'm here. Hello. The majority of the funds are going to personnel costs. And we have our intervention teacher. We have some going toward teaching assistants for English language development, and some going toward our counselor and part of my salary also. And that's typical. We did have some carryover funds this year in addition to our regular Title I funds, because we didn't have our after-school programs and summer school programs last year, and after-school programs this year. So that's why we also have additional funds in addition to the ones that were stated. And I do want to say our SIPSA aligns with the LCAP. The goals match the LCAP goals for language arts, math, English language development, and social emotional learning.
Thank you so much, Elisa.
That answers my question. The amount seemed somewhat higher than normal, and for good cause and good reason. So thank you.
So if I could please go ahead and get a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the 2021-2022 school plan for student achievement at Captain Cooper Elementary School.
I second.
Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Agenda item 5E, these are new positions. 3 special ed instructional assistants, 6.5 hours, 0.8125 FTE. 1 behavior intervention assistant, 6.5 hours, 0.8125 FTE.
So to keep this simple and easy, this is information with regards to positions that are needed after a review of the current staffing and aligning that with the needs of students that have been identified. We do have some new students, we have some shifting needs, and so these positions were identified to provide support in the area of special education as required by IEPs in the district.
Excellent, thank you. I'll open up this agenda item for public comment. This is agenda item 5E for the new positions.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5E. Please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 5E. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to the board for questions, comments, and a motion to approve.
Craig, I'm curious what a behavior intervention assistant does. I mean, other than intervening for behavior. I could have guessed that one. So.
Right. Well, it's actually a position that typically is in a student setting or a classroom setting. That's support specifically for behavior that needs support during the course of the classroom. It's not an academic reason per se. They may also have academic reasons. They're there to support the teacher, but more importantly, they're there to support the student, redirect and follow the IEP guidance so that the student's behavior becomes such that they're able to function, hopefully in the long term in a classroom setting without a behavior intervention assistant.
So are these all being paid out of the general fund, Craig? Or are these going to be kind of with COVID monies and then we'll reevaluate and assess after those monies run out?
So Yvonne would evaluate that particular piece. I know that there is some possibility of replacing general fund with some of the COVID monies, depending upon their nature. These are actually foundational positions that we will be required no matter what. So they are slated from the general fund at this time.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the new positions. Special ed instructional assistant, and the behavior intervention assistant.
Second.
Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Thank you, Craig. I know you're hanging with us. For agenda item 5F, these are new job descriptions and associated salary schedules, Director of Communications and Community Engagement, Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and Mental Health Licensed Therapist.
So these positions were approved in terms of form in the last meeting. However, of the list of positions that were approved, there were several that were on that list that did not have approved job descriptions and or associated salary schedules. So this was an intent to outline that information for you, the board, for reviews to ensure that we're able to go out and hire the positions and the individuals who we think are the best fit for the district. And those job descriptions are supposed to kind of make that match happen. These are all in unrepresented areas, meaning they are classified or certificated depending upon their classifications. In the case of the BCBA and the mental health therapist, there are certifications, obviously through the state of California, that individuals are required to maintain. With regards to the Director of Communications, as an example, we're looking for individuals who have training and background in communications or those types of fields and experience, obviously, working in those areas. So it outlines all of the detail within that.
Great, thank you, Craig. I'll go ahead and open this one up for public comment. Agenda item 5F.
Now is the time if you would like to make a public comment on agenda item 5F, please raise your hand. We will not be revisiting public comment on this agenda item. I will take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 5F. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the board for questions, comments, motion to approve.
So Craig, just for clarification, these are full-time, or the Director of Communications is full-time with a one-year contract, or how long of a contract?
So the individuals would receive an initial one-year contract. There's a probationary period at this time of 12 months. If they successfully complete that 12-month probationary period, then they become a permanent individual within the organization. There are some nuances, obviously, in the details, but that's typically what happens for those that are considered classified service, which all three of these would be considered in that classified service. So that's how it would go with regards to that.
Well, I know I said this before, but I'm super excited to have a director of communications. I think it's a great move, and I'm very happy that we got this position posted and are moving forward with it.
Well, I'm going to make a motion if there are no other comments. No other comments? Okay, I'd move to approve item V, no, 5F, new job descriptions and associated salary schedules as presented to the board.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Craig, for your hard work on all of those job descriptions. Thank you. All right, moving along to agenda item 5G. Resolution 21-17, awarding contract CMS concrete expansion bid award.
Okay, this is a project to expand the concrete patio just south of the Carmel Middle School Library. We're increasing it by 16 feet to give the site more options for activities at lunch and after school and special little programs they have. You'll notice the original estimate was 110,000 and the bid came in at 70,000. We had the original estimate in April and modified the scope of work, took some of the scope out, and it will be done by the maintenance staff. So this is well within our budget, and was pleasantly surprised to have 3 bidders because we did get this one out to bid a little bit late. So I'm recommending approval and can answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Dan. I'll open it up to public comment on agenda item 5G, resolution 21-17.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5G. Please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 5G. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over now to the board. Questions, comments, and a motion to approve.
Quick question for Dan. So Dan, you mentioned you modified the size of the project. So what was the original parameters, just in terms of length? Width?
Actually, the only thing we modified was the storm drain work. Because there were some unknowns on that. The contractors were putting a large amount in there just to cover themselves. And, you know, we have the equipment to locate the storm drain system and figure out what we wanted to do with it. So we have a backhoe, and that dropped the bids $40,000 because it took the unknown out of that portion of work.
Wow. And without reducing the size of the project, correct?
Right. They're getting exactly what they wanted from the beginning.
Perfect. Well done.
Dan, I'm just curious, are there any environmental regulations when you're like, does it have to be permeable or?
No, this is actually, there's not a requirement for permeable. We're actually going to be removing some lawns, so it'll decrease the amount, slightly the amount of irrigation we'll be using. But beyond that, it'll go, any runoff is going to go into the storm drain system, which will then go to our perk ponds, which are south of MOT.
Okay.
Oops. There we go. Quick question, Dan, on irrigation. Are we still using the well?
Actually, that's the next item. The well was just finished and we're waiting for the sign off on the permits so we can fire it up. We're actually still on Cal-Am for middle school irrigation, but hoping that will change here in the next month or so.
And when it does, what anticipated sort of percentage savings do you see that bringing to the district?
We'll actually table the well conversation for the next agenda item. I'm so sorry. So
Right.
just put that in the back of your head.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. So may I get a motion to approve the CMS concrete expansion?
I'll make a motion to approve the CMS concrete expansion.
Second.
Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar,
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini. Carl is on mute, but he nodded yes.
Okay. Now, moving on to agenda item 5H. This is resolution 21-18, notice of completion, the CMS well replacement. So we'll keep Dan Paul with us.
Okay, so this is the well replacement project. It was completed in May. There was one change order for an extension of time and increase the size of the pump on the system. So to kind of answer the question I heard in the last item, we generally spend $20,000 to $30,000 a month irrigating the middle school, and it really depends on the amount of rainfall you have as to how much it ends up being over the course of the year. So we were probably closer to $30,000 a month because we were in a drought situation. So this will be a significant savings to the general fund once we have the permit in hand, can start using it. The reason we increased the size of the pump was to make the irrigation more efficient. The old system would only run one string of irrigation heads. So we were doubling up, or we were trying to get it all done at night and ended up with wet fields in the morning. This will allow us to do everything at night when there's very little loss to evaporation and make the system more efficient.
Great, thank you, Dan. Well, before I turn it over to the board, we'll open this up for public comment on agenda item 5H, CMS well replacement.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5H. Please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call on public comments on agenda item 5H. I am seeing no hands raised at this time.
All right, Carl, fire away. All of your well questions that you've ever wanted answered.
Oh, well, tell you what, sorry about jumping ahead on the agenda, but so Dan, is it in the same location as the other well?
It's about 30 feet from the old well. The old well has been demolished per county standards.
So when you plumbed this one, the old well, the water that was coming out of the old well was full of rust, as evidenced by the all of the outfield of the varsity girls softball diamond down there. Everything was kind of a nice brown from the watering. Have you plumbed it in such a way where that kind of rust intrusion, or is it still kind of a galvanized thing, or what's the deal?
When we ran the camera down the old well, it was in pretty bad shape. So a lot of that was coming from the condition of the well casing.
Oh, okay.
We ran the new well for a few minutes to clear all the heads and test everything. And it came out a little brown for like 2 minutes and then was clear. So it seems like we're in good shape with the new well.
So it should stay clear. Yeah, because
Yes.
that was really a frustration, in terms of worked. It was functional, but messy.
Dan, I have a quick question, and I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to ask it, but has the district ever looked at any sort of a water reclamation plant or a gray water system or anything to offset? I mean, now that we have a well, it's different, but it's still using water. But just wondering if the district has ever looked at that or tapping into other reclamation plants nearby.
We don't have ready access to any nearby reclamation plans. When we built the theater, there's a pretty extensive storm drain system around it. We built that in a fashion that if we ever wanted to put some rainwater tanks somewhere on the campus, we'd be able to tie in on the lower campus. The thought at that time was, before we knew we were putting a science wing there, we thought we could bury a couple of very large tanks on Freshman Field and supply the football field for a portion of the year. Well, now we have artificial turf and we built a science wing, but the option is still there. If we ever want to put some tanks in, we can capture quite a bit of the runoff at the high school to use for irrigation, but that's about the extent of what we looked at in the district.
And one more, Dan, about how many acres do we actually water down there at the middle school?
I think we're close to 20 acres because, the habitat's really running on drip. They don't do a lot of the irrigation like we do on the soccer and softball and baseball fields. So it's probably closer to 20 acres once you count some of the areas close into the campus of middle school and then all the fields.
And the last question is, do we ever get any pushback on watering grass at that level, 20 acres, especially in the middle of a drought?
Yeah, in the last drought, we did have a visit from the water district. They wanted us to cut back on the irrigation because they felt our fields were too green. So we did cut back, and I imagine restrictions are going to be coming very soon where, that kikuyu that kind of stays green all the time is going to start to brown out when we start to reduce.
Gotcha. Might be a good idea to continue with some of the artificial turf wherever we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask exactly what Tess asked. It just seems like with the future of California, can we be looking into reclamation or gray water? I don't know if there's any restrictions with that, or a different approach to how to keep these grasses green. Because using water, even if it comes from a well, that's a huge tap into our very limited water resource.
I like the idea of, using gray water or, water reclamation of some kind. But I hasten to say about putting in turf, it's been, they're coming back with studies now showing where it is actually raising the ambient temperature around there, which is causing you to have to try and work on cooling your buildings and cooling your outside even more. And those natural grasses tend to keep the temperature, more stable around that. And especially since none of our buildings are air conditioned, at least the ones that I have seen, it's much easier to try and keep those, grasses going. But looking at, other alternatives for doing that. The AstroTurf gets extremely hot, and it becomes, when it's, a 90-degree day outside, it's 120 on that stuff. So.
Well, fortunately, when we actually have school in session, we're out of summer, and we get very few days with that kind of heat. And we do have some air conditioning. I know we do at Tulorcitos. Mm-hmm. And I believe even Captain Cooper. Am I right about that, Dan?
Yeah, Tulorcitos and Captain Cooper have air conditioning, and then there's a few areas that have computers, like the computer labs, the middle school library, right, the theater, a few specialized places that, traditionally in the past, if you're running a classroom full of computers, you were generating a lot of heat. That's not so much the case anymore, but there's some legacy air conditioning systems in those spaces.
Okay. I'd make a motion.
Second.
Unless there's any, well, I haven't made it yet.
Oh.
I like your style, Seabury. Why don't you go ahead and second it, and I will then make the motion. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 21-18. Notice of completion of the CMS well replacement. And nice job on it, Dan.
Second.
Atta girl.
Board member Sarah Hines, Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board member Seabury Nachbar.
Yes.
Board member Carl Palestrini.
No, I'm going to make the motion again so Seabury can, no, yes. We'll just make it a yes.
All right. Dan Paul. Last two. All right, home stretch. Agenda item 5I, this is resolution 2119-19, notice of completion of the Carmel Valley High School shade structure.
Okay, this is the new shade structure at Valley High. If you were out there for graduation, you probably saw the pole sticking up. The fabric is in place and we've done the final inspection and are completing project closeout. There were no change orders and the project was done on time.
Fantastic. Yes, we all did see it when we were out there for graduation. So I will open it up to public comment on agenda item 5I, Carmel Valley High School shade structure.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5I. Please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call on public comments for agenda item 5I. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. I feel like I need a shade structure with this weird sunlight, so I apologize. I'll turn it over to the board for a motion to approve or questions for Dan Paul on this one.
We'll make a motion to approve resolution 21-19, notice of completion of the Carmel Valley High School shade structure.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini. And Carl said yes.
Agenda item 5J, resolution 21-21, authority to enter into contracts. Is this Paul Bien or?
This is Dan Paul.
Oh, this is Dan Paul. Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, Dan left us, and so I wasn't sure.
Well, maybe.
Oh, there you are, Dan. Sorry.
Okay, I wasn't aware this one was mine.
Well, maybe it is me. They're all listed the same on my little.
It all said Paul on my sheet,
Yeah.
so I took a stab there.
I can cover it, Paul.
Dan. Yeah.
This is the resolution that will authorize the new superintendent to sign contracts as we move forward. It's standard. We do this every year at the start of the year for the fiscal year, and we recommend it.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to public comment on agenda item 5J.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 5J. Please raise your hand. I will take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 5J. I am showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to the board for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve item 5J, resolution 21-21, authority to enter into contracts.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Dan Paul, very much. And the next agenda item, board operations. So I'd like to let everybody know to mark your calendar for July 21st, 2021. That will be our next regularly scheduled board meeting. So we will all see you back here on that date. And for future topics, Pursuant to Board Bylaw 9322, between meetings, members of the public may submit written requests that matter within the jurisdiction of the board to be placed on the agenda of a subsequent meeting. The platform to submit requests in writing can be found on the district's webpage, so we would encourage everybody to do that. Before I turn it over to the board, I'll open it up for public comment on future topics.
Now is the time if you would like to state a public comment on agenda item 6A, future topics. I will take pause. Last call for public comments on agenda item 6A. I'm showing no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. And I should have made mention to our community and my fellow board members that our July 21st meeting will be our first Board of Education meeting with Mr. Ted Knight as superintendent. So I know that we were all looking forward to that. And with that said, are there any comments or questions on future topics? Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you, board members. Thank you, members of the public, for joining our meeting this evening. I hope everybody's enjoying their summer, and we will see you back here in July. Thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned.